And we're back with another episode of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale with Don and Kevin. And this is where we connect people, man, who make our city great. Kevin, what do you think, man?
I love recording these podcasts with you, Don. They're fun.
We've done this 173 times now, and everyone's been special.
They sure have.
And I have no doubt that today is going to be one of them again. So today our guests are Mike Phillips and Charlie Vascellaro. They're both with the Arizona Baseball Legacy and Experience. Mike's the president, Charlie's the vice president. You know, from the crack of the bat at spring training to the stories of players who shaped the game, Arizona has played a unique role in baseball's history. Mike and Charlie are working to preserve that legacy while inspiring future generations to connect with the sport in new ways. We'll hear all about the roots of Able. Do we call you Able?
Able's good.
Able, okay. Yes, it's an easier way of saying the Arizona baseball and legacy experience. So thank you for Able. But we're going to hear about the roots of Able and the impact of baseball on our community. So Mike, let's start with your story. Give us a little bit about your background and what drew you to baseball and to your involvement with Able.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Scottsdale, graduated Chaparral High School, spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, and then went to school at SCC and Arizona State. I was a journalist most of that time in Scottsdale for the old Scottsdale Progress.
Oh, wow.
I was the city editor and was there when they transitioned to the Scottsdale Progress Tribune. And then in '98, the city of Scottsdale reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in doing the media relations job. And so I kind of switched lanes and went to work for the city of Scottsdale and retired from the city in 2018.
Wow.
No kidding.
Yeah, and that's my work history. And
Well, we share newspaper roots. I was managing editor of the Arizona Republic back in the day, and then I became publisher of the Business Journal. I thought I recognized your name from that, but
Yeah?
it's a small world.
So
Charlie,
you worked
look
for
familiar
the city
too.
manager then?
My background is very similar to Mike's.
that
I was
right?
kind of following his trajectory by about 3 or 4 years later
Okay.
behind him. And I wrote for the Scottsdale Progress.
You did,
I covered
okay.
minor league baseball. The Firebirds was my beat. When their first 2 seasons at Scottsdale Stadium, I was up in the press box there. And even before that, I'm a Coronado High School graduate. And I spent my high school days playing hooky and going to baseball games at Scottsdale Stadium during the spring.
Of course. Yeah. Join the crowd, right? Yeah, that's fabulous. Yeah. Mike, how did you get involved with Able? What's that? Connect us there.
well, growing up in Scottsdale, you throughout my childhood and teen years, run into baseball players, former baseball players, and it was always very, very interesting culture. And of course, the games. And I was just a baseball fan. Actually, I was a baseball fan before I moved to Arizona. I was a long-suffering Washington Senators fan.
Oh my gosh, back in the day.
Yeah,
We're going back a few years.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I remember moving out here, and there wasn't a major league team, but we would get Vin Scully on the radio out here and listen to the Dodger games. So I just grew up in love with baseball. And then when I was working for the city, I was very familiar with spring training and the marketing around it. And it always seemed to me that we underappreciated the history of baseball in the Valley, in the state, in the Valley, and Scottsdale. Scottsdale's got this incredible, rich baseball history. You look at the old Pink Pony and Don and Charlie's, and there's businesses today like Karsten's. And so I felt I started to advocate while I was at the city for more baseball involvement, and actually blessed city leadership in 2012. They allowed me to work with the Charles, and we started a Scottsdale Spring Training Festival that lasted for 6 years, and it was a really roller coaster ride. And it didn't have a lot of support from Major League Baseball, and really not a lot of support from the local merchant community because everybody's so busy in February, March anyway. But anyway, so long story short, about, what would you say, 5 years, 6 years ago?
I'd say you and I started doing this stuff together in 2017, which,
Okay,
which is more than that. What's
Yeah.
that? That's like
Years are going by fast.
Yeah, they're flipping through. We did the Cactus League Hall of Fame luncheon together. We put the movie together, the promotional film, and we had an exhibit at the Scottsdale Civic Center Library, at the Scottsdale
Oh,
Public
neat.
Library,
Okay.
and we've had exhibits in the Little Red Schoolhouse, at the Historical Society. Pretty much every year since 2017, we've put some kind of spring training museum exhibit together.
So did Able start in 2017 then?
It's about 5 years old, and the reason why we formed an organization is there was a void at that time in organizations that were trying to celebrate Arizona baseball. And we had worked with a lot of people over the years. They actually called us up and said, "Hey, nobody's doing this anymore, and you guys should try to pick this up because your passion for it and your connections." And so we got together with another one of our buddies who's partnered with us on some projects, and we formed Able as a nonprofit. And again, the Charles were very helpful with helping us work through that process and get us set up. And so we've been doing exhibits for over 6 years or over 5 years.
Yeah.
And we've done one in Dodger Stadium.
Really?
Yeah, for the All-Star game a couple years ago.
Wow.
We've done them with Arizona Heritage Center in Tempe, the Arizona Historical Society. And then we've done a number of them in Scottsdale, primarily through our connections, but I think primarily also because Scottsdale really does appreciate its history. There's a lot of folks in Scottsdale that realize the wonderful heritage the city has with baseball, and so they want to work to promote that, educate the public about it, and everybody wins because it's an economic driver, as everybody knows about spring training. It's a community kind of treasure, baseball, and like the high school programs. Some of those successful high school programs in the history of the state and even nationally are here. So there's this wonderful baseball culture that exists, and people want to celebrate that. Am I missing anything, Charlie?
Well, this exhibit that we're putting together at Scottsdale Stadium, it's in conjunction with the Arizona Fall League season.
I see.
But it's really a comprehensive exhibit covering Arizona baseball history to the days of pre-statehood, to the late 1800s. And so if you go through the exhibit, it's chronological, and we'll take you through those eras up into the mining leagues in Globe and Bisbee, things like
kidding.
that.
Pretty
Yeah.
wild, yeah.
We had the Firebirds here for many years.
Yeah.
the
I
Phoenix
remember them.
Giants
I
and
went to Firebird
Firebirds.
games back in the
so
day.
we're
Yeah.
covering that. We're covering the Fall League. My dear departed friend Roland Heeman, the founder of the Fall League, we're giving him his due in this exhibit. And the Arizona Fall League keeps its Hall of Fame in Scottsdale Stadium. So
they
this
do.
is all going to be very complimentary. It's going to be kind of seamless. It's going to be studying the past and history while we're making some. It's
Right. Okay.
It just keeps unfolding. Every year we do these things, something gets added on the next year. It grows organically, and people come in and see the exhibits, and then they tell you about items that they have in their collection that they want to loan us. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen in a couple of days. Someone's going to come through the exhibit and say, "Oh, by the way, I have some stuff in my collection you might be interested in." So
I wonder if they put up with Don Carson.
I was just saying, I bet you guys
Right?
worked with Don Carson before.
Did he give you
or-
some stuff
yeah.
for the exhibit?
He has not loaned us any for this exhibit. We've worked with him in the past.
Yeah.
And Don has got a tremendous collection, and
Yeah.
And we hope that he arranges somehow to share it with the community moving forward. In the future.
He's got a spirit and a heart. We've had him on a podcast before.
Yeah.
He's got a spirit and a heart for that. There's no
we've
question,
got
yeah.
some cool old memorabilia from the Pink Pony.
Oh,
and
bet, yeah.
the caricatures that the newspaper cartoonists
Yeah.
used to do of the celebrities and that were in town. We got some of that stuff.
Yeah.
The Pink Pony itself
Right.
that used to adorn the top of the building.
Thank you for
will be-
saving it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We need that's the stuff you don't want to see disappear.
Oh yeah. No, we're celebrating that legacy. The Coach House in Scottsdale was part of baseball history. The Red
Yeah.
Sox used to go in there. It was actually
I didn't know that.
it was the first integrated bar in Scottsdale because of the black players that were on the Red Sox.
Really?
When they were not allowed to drink elsewhere, they were welcome at the Coach House.
No kidding.
That's a great piece of history there. I had no idea.
Thank you.
What other history nuggets do you guys have that we might not know about?
Oh boy, we
Probably
got
a long list, right?
But Charlie talked about the territorial baseball history in Arizona, and it's a fascinating history. It actually came with the cavalry after the Civil War. Baseball was considered like one of the primary favored recreational activities of the Army. It was cheap. It was good for morale. It kept the troops on base rather than going out to some of the communities that were sprouting up around the bases. And so they really favored baseball on unit-to-unit matches, fort-to-fort, and then it wasn't long before some of the towns that were cropping up outside of the bases like Yuma and Prescott and even Phoenix with Fort McDowell, they were playing, I guess you could call it kind of interregional games, and they would usually happen around holidays, so it was a big deal. They would 4th of July or Christmas, and the newspapers of the time would talk about the game weeks in advance, so it was a big deal. And so it was this element of the us maturing as a state, us maturing as a community. Baseball was there from day one, and it was an important facet. And if you look at some of these old photographs, there are baseball fields wedged into slag hills in Morenci, and even Jerome. The Jerome's hills are stripped bare from the mining, but there's a baseball field wedged in to into this chaos of the mines, and it speaks to the importance of baseball in the territorial days, and then in the early mining and what they call the outlaw leagues, which is another fascinating history of Arizona baseball. Most people are familiar with the 1919 Chicago White Sox and the
Black Sox.
the
Black
gambling
Sox, right?
Black
Yeah,
Sox,
right.
and number of those players came out to Arizona to play, and they call them the outlaw leagues because at the time Major League Baseball had a lot of moral turpitude laws. So if you ran afoul, if you were committing adultery or gambling or doing whatever, a lot of these players would get banished from Major League Baseball. They couldn't play, so they'd come out west and they'd play for these mining leagues.
The Warren Ballpark in Bisbee is one of the oldest ballparks in the country,
Is that
if
right?
not the oldest.
Bisbee.
In Bisbee, continually operational.
Really?
And they do reenactments of old-time baseball under different rules there,
Yeah.
where when you could soak the guy, throw the ball at him, and hit him to get him out, stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, that ballpark and Rickwood Field in Birmingham, Alabama, kind of argue over which one was built first. They're
Who's
both
older?
around 1911, 1912, something like that.
Really?
And they have kept that tradition alive down there in Bisbee. He was talking about the outlaw leagues. There were guys who were banned from Major League Baseball who ended up playing in places like Bisbee. Fort Huachuca had a cavalry, the 25th Cavalry, which was a black cavalry unit, and had Negro Leagues players who had left to join the military and play on the military team. Guys with Negro Leagues experience, which was comparable with Major League
Oh, they got
experience.
good ball players,
Yeah, so
right?
they had some pretty
Yeah.
good ball players right down in Fort Huachuca too.
How has nobody made a movie out of that yet, or have there been? That's
Great question. Right.
Yeah, it's truly amazing, and there's a famous photograph of the Tombstone baseball team from 18. Well, some people say it's from the 1880s. Other people say, based on some of the equipment that was in the picture, it might be the 1890s. But the bottom line is, Tombstone had a baseball team, a competitive traveling baseball team at the time of the OK Corral shootout.
Oh, I was going to ask about the timing on that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. They were. I think the Tombstone baseball team formed like in 1878, and the shootout was 1881. And it's a CS Fly photograph. We have a photo of it in our exhibit, but it's a really cool photograph. It's they're all in their Tombstone uniforms, and it's in this a Victorian background, because at the time, it's a rustic mining, rough and tumble town. But they wanted to be sophisticated, and they wanted to, say this is, this is a classy town and a classy operation, and
Because we got baseball.
And the
We
photo
got
was,
baseball,
the
yeah.
photo was taken in a photography studio, not a ball field. They went in and get the shot done. So.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But it's a part of that history. It's part of our history, and it's part of that mythologized Western heritage history that baseball's really not associated with, but it was part of it.
I'm learning some things I didn't know before. I knew it was always part of our culture, but I didn't know it went back that far in the historical perspective.
Yeah,
That goes way back.
Talk about the exhibit that you got coming opening. Is it next week then? And is it run alongside fall ball?
Right. Yeah. So we're working with the Fall League, and we'll have an exhibit. It's at Scottsdale Stadium.
Okay.
It's in the old Giants merchandise shop.
On the first base line.
Okay.
First baseline, and as Charlie was saying, it covers the baseball from the territorial days through the mining leagues up into the modern era. And you want
Right
to
up
talk
to-
a little bit about the Cactus League stuff? And
Yeah, right up to the present tense. We've done a lot of work on Cactus League history. It's
Yeah, I
kind
bet.
of our bread and butter.
Yeah.
So we're incorporating elements of previous installations. We've got the storyboards that we've already written. We've got a pretty good collection. I'll talk about Francisco Grande at Casa Grande,
yeah.
which is another kind
That's
of
fun down there.
lost part of the story. You know, the Giants had a spring training facility down there from 1961 to 1982, and Willie McCovey, Willie Mays, Juan Marichal, the Alus, Gaylord Perry, they're all down there. And we have in our collection a home plate and a pitcher's rubber that were unearthed from Francisco Grande.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's two of my favorite pieces in the collection. And that
That's cool.
story, I love that story. You know, at that time, there was only a few teams here, and Cleveland was down in Tucson, and the Giants and the Cubs were up in the valley.
Padres were in Yuma because I was in Yuma the year the Padres were there. I was 1 year in Yuma.
Yuma started in 1969. So I'm going back even further.
Yeah.
But Casa Grande was kind of the crossroads of the Cactus League.
Okay.
Right in the middle. You were going to be making a trip one way or the other, which was kind of why Stoneham put it there. And also, if you look at the Talking Stick and Salt River Fields facility now, what was going on in Casa Grande at Francisco Grande was kind of the same thing. It was way ahead of its time. You had a ball field and a hotel next to each other, kind of thematic. The swimming pool in Francisco Grande was shaped like a baseball bat.
Yeah.
And
That is
it
so
even had a
cool.
bill coming off the hotel, which was the Giants hat.
Yeah.
So,
You know, I know we've consolidated, which makes sense for a number of different reasons to consolidate them and basically in the valley for the most part. But the year I was 1 year in Yuma, and the Padres were still training down there, and it takes the whole towns behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes, because it's smaller towns, not a lot going on. But having the Padres in Yuma for the year that I was visiting with that, it was just an awesome event. Everybody went to every game.
Desert Sun Stadium.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that was really cool.
we found in our research the first spring training exhibition game took place in Yuma. Guess what year?
What?
1909.
Oh,
Really?
I wouldn't get any. I wouldn't guess nowhere near that.
Wow.
Yeah.
The White Sox were coming back from San Francisco, which is where they trained
Yeah.
at the turn of the 19th century. And they made a stop in Yuma, and they played a local Yuma team, and there was I think they said 200 people attended the game.
Which was a big crowd in Yuma those
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
Most of them were in the
1909.
territorial prison if they weren't at the game.
That's right. It was the only game in town.
So you got a couple of things I'm curious about. One is something called the Arizona Baseball Trail.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
Well, the trail, I'll start, but Mike can finish too. The trail contains stops along the way, places we've already mentioned in this conversation are spots on the trail. So it's a user-friendly kind of thing we created where people can make these stops on their own. We give them a map, we tell them, here's the Arizona Baseball Trail. We've got a starting 9 right now on the trail. And we're going to add more as we develop it. But some of these spots we're talking about are, of course, on the trail. Francisco Grande's
Okay.
on the trail.
Is Yuma on the trail?
Yuma's on the trail.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not
It
yet.
will be.
Will
It
be.
will
Okay, good.
Will be,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Good,
And,
good.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You talk about some of it, too.
Well, the trail, I mean, one of the things that we discovered, and we, you kind of known this being a baseball fan, is there's different layers of fans, and there's the casual fans, and then there's guys that live, eat, and breathe baseball, and they
They
can't get
score
enough
at the
of it.
games, all that kind of stuff.
Score the games,
right?
and
Yeah.
they visit all 30 of the Major League Baseball parks. They go on tours. We know a guy who this summer, I think he went to 60 minor league baseball parks. It's their passion, right?
Yeah.
Well, so there's this subculture of baseball fan that wants to visit historic baseball sites and soak up the stories. And Arizona's just rich with it. I mean,
Right.
rich with it. From Bisbee to Prescott to Flagstaff had a team, Jerome
Cochise
had a
County.
team.
Yeah,
Coach-
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's everywhere. And so we wanted to start a project that recognized those locations, put a cohesive narrative together about them, and then share it with folks.
And even put a marker, put a historical marker.
So you can go and visit something somewhere, right?
Yeah. Our goal is to get these places designated as historic sites.
Yeah.
And get put a bronze marker on
Kevin,
them.
I see a road trip coming up, man.
Okay, have you been in front? I've been in Francisco Grande and seen the baseball,
Yeah.
the old baseball stadium down
In
there.
the bar at Francisco Grande,
Yes, right.
they still have pictures. They still
Yeah.
have the black and white shots of.
Do they? I've not seen that. Yeah, that's
and
cool.
John Wayne kept a penthouse up on top
That's
because he
right.
owned the Rooster Cogburn Cattle Ranch down there.
Yeah.
And so there was some celebrity trafficking,
Yeah.
going through that hotel. And you can say the same thing about Bisbee. They were.
Yeah. So you're a nonprofit. So tell us a little bit about the financial, how your business model works, and how people can help or donate, or how are you pulling this all together?
Every exhibit is a different story. So we, like this one, we're working with the city of Scottsdale. They're sponsoring the exhibit. They're giving us the money to do the infrastructure and the production to make it happen. The Arizona Baseball Trail is a different animal. We're working with a guy who's done some political fundraising, and he's teaching us how to establish a website where we can accept donations. We're going to set up some donor events, and we're going to become, I think, hopefully more sophisticated with fundraising. We're two kind of retired, semi-retired guys trying to figure it out.
Newspaper guys trying to figure out how to make money, right?
Yeah, it's a new world. So to answer your question, I mean, it's every exhibit is a different deal. Like with Dodger Stadium, Charlie has a friend who works with the Dodgers. In fact, she's a brilliant person.
Yeah, we created an exhibit we contributed to an exhibit at the Mesa Historical Museum a few years back, which concerned Japanese American baseball history.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, the baseball that was played in the incarceration camps in
Yeah.
Gila River. And that exhibit in its original form in Mesa caught the eyes of the Dodgers. And the Dodgers got a hold of us and said, we have a Japanese Heritage Night coming up in June. Would you be able to bring the installation? It involved a lot of work to get everything from here.
So you took that was in Mesa at the library then?
It was at
Yeah.
the Historical Society.
And then you
And we
moved that to
it.
LA to Dodger
we
Stadium?
moved it to LA. We
Parts of it, yeah.
we
Parts of
work
it,
with another organization called the Nisei Baseball Research Project, which handles Japanese baseball history. And my good friend Kerio Nakagawa, he's out in California. It's his baby. We have another guy named Bill Staples here who's on their board. And we kind of joined forces with them to make it happen. When we put it on the concourse in June for the Heritage Night, the actor Ken Watanabe came out and threw out the first pitch,
Oh,
the guy
wow.
from The Last Emperor, yeah. And Dave Roberts is also half Japanese, the Dodgers manager.
Oh, is he? Okay.
The two of them cut the ribbon with us
wow.
on the
Yeah.
exhibit. And then it just stayed on the concourse till the whole end of the season. They kept it for the second half in a really nice spot in left field where everybody could see it. It became a launching pad. That exhibit has found its way to the All-Star Game every year since.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Who knew?
Do you guys go set that up every year? Or does
well,
it-
we work with the guys who do it.
Yeah.
And he said there's a field in California, Manzanar, that's been featured on some TV shows lately on PBS, and there's a rededication going on and a recreation game coming up within the next week or two. And those guys are going there to do that. We're not going there with them, but we're with them in spirit.
Yeah, Gila River had a internment camp, and there were, I think, 16,000 residents there, 14,000 residents there. They had 30 baseball teams, and the residents of those camps, again, said baseball is such a important cultural element for them that it being forced to move from their homes, mostly in California, come out, be plopped down in the middle of the desert. Everything's different. It's Spartan. It's hot. They had baseball.
There was
Baseball
an
this connective-
exhibition game played between the high school kids at the camp and the Tucson championship team, which was a huge exhibition game, which the Japanese kids beat the team in Tucson. And there was supposed to be a rematch, which never took place. But just to explain the level of competition and how spirited that competition was, the fact that game took place at all is amazing.
Yeah.
Good point.
And
So-
out of 14,000 residents in that camp, isolated camp, 8,000 people were at that game.
Yeah.
the whole place showed up. So how could people? So a couple things. You got the exhibit coming up at Scottsdale Stadium. How long is that going to be there?
Just through the 19th.
The
So it's
19th.
very limited.
Okay,
3
so
weeks.
So there's the chance for people when you hear this to get out to Scottsdale Stadium to see it. And then how can people support you and stay connected with you? Do you have a website yet?
Yes,
Okay.
ableaz.org.
ableaz.org.
Yep.
And I suppose that there's ways for people that want to contribute to your effort. They can do that way too?
Yes, absolutely. They can go on, we have a sister website for the Arizona Baseball Trail, and there's a donation site there, and all the money that we're raising on that site is going to go into the production of the landmarks for the Arizona Baseball Trail locations and the maps and all the infrastructure that's required to make that project happen. And then I wanted to mention too, so we've got this exhibit at Scottsdale Stadium in October, and then we're working with Prescott and the Charlotte Hall Museum up there on a Arizona Baseball Trail landmark dedication event, possibly as early as November.
Wow.
And we're still pulling together the details on that. But the first photographed Arizona baseball game took place in 1876 on an open field on Gurley Street that would become Courthouse Plaza.
No kidding.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you go online, if you go to our website, you can see pictures from that game.
I could talk baseball all day long,
Right.
man. I'll tell you what, but we're near the end of our show today, so we're going to have to wrap her up. But I hope people do come out and see your exhibit.
And of course, in the spring, we'll have another one at the Little Red Schoolhouse. At
I was
their
gonna
store.
say,
We'll
yeah,
talk
okay.
about that then
So
too.
we-
You
yep,
bet.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Fantastic. Learn something every time we do one of these, don't we?
I bet
Kevin?
you Joan Fidala may not know some of this stuff.
I bet she doesn't know some of this. She
I
probably
don't
knows
know.
some
I
of
don't know.
it.
Joan's pretty
knows
sharp.
everything.
Yeah. That's true.
We access her work and give her credit for her work. And
Oh, good.
Yeah, she's one of the great researchers on these topics.
No question.
She's
Oh,
another community treasure.
Yeah.
She is.
Great conversation, Mike and Charlie. We really admire the work you're doing, and we learned a lot. Kevin and I learned a lot today for sure about what's happening. And now I think maybe not quite as excited as you are, but we're right behind you, man.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're in for sure. And baseball is great. I love being in the playoff scene right now, and so
Yeah.
baseball's on the top of everybody's minds anyway. Now we have another reason to
really
celebrate
is.
our legacy and our culture as it relates to baseball in Scottsdale and in all of Arizona. So thank you, Charlie and Mike. I really
Thank you.
appreciate talking to you, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend. Share it with a baseball fan.
Yeah.
They would really like that. So try a baseball fan. And if nothing else, subscribe for more conversations with people who make Scottsdale great. We'll be back with another episode next week of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale.